everybody. So we're back. I know we finished watching Wheel of Time, but we are back. We are -1. Rebecca's not with us for this episode anyway.
Yes. She will join us in some future episodes, probably.
She will. She absolutely will, because if not, I'll throw a fit. So before we get too far into what we're doing, I want to introduce our special guest tonight, who is Mr. Darin M. Bush.
Oh my God, there he is. Look out.
So tonight, Darin is going to watch episode 1 of Rings of Power with us. So, Darin, tell us about yourself.
A shadow of the past, I think. Yeah, Shadow of the Past is the first.
Wait, I'm a shadow of your past, Tom, or that's the name of the episode?
It's more of like a tasty snack from my past, and
I'm not sure what I volunteered here. I think Ebony asked the question. I'm trying so hard, Ebony, to answer the question. I'm Darin M. Bush. I'm a science fiction and fantasy short story writer. I am also a con runner in Atlanta and its outskirts. I'm also recently started a YouTube channel called Tables of Content, which is basically a virtual science fiction convention. And also, like I think I already said, I'm an Atlanta con runner, so I'll say that twice.
Which is it's hard to imagine where we possibly could have met Darin as an Atlanta con runner.
It's crazy.
No idea.
I don't even live in Atlanta, so
starts with a J. Things you wear with an umbrella.
I mean, neither do I, and I think I've been to every Jordan Con, and I've missed maybe 4 Conjurations.
So I have not been to Conjuration, so I have to add that to my list.
Yeah,
I know. Now, keep in mind, for a very long time, I had small children, and they don't let me do many things. So
they're getting us just a smidge older now.
Yes, no, I have adults now, and then a 10-year-old that's going to follow me everywhere. So,
nice. And what were you saying? We were chatting before. You said this is none of them have. There's no toys on any Christmas lists.
Right. This is the first Christmas that I have not had to purchase toys and then force my husband to construct things at night like a little elf, or
no batteries,
or wake up in the morning and go, we didn't buy batteries. So it should be a stress-free Christmas morning.
Nice. Yeah. So to remind everybody, we're going to be watching the Rings of Power. It is Amazon's, which happens to just be like a coincidence because we're not going to do all Amazon shows. In fact, we have a couple of choices. We're going to be announcing what our next show is probably around the mark of when there's 2 or 3 episodes left in our current series. But we're playing with a few ideas that are maybe one is on, I think we'll just say, one is on Disney Plus and the other is on Peacock. So there's a couple of options that we're toying with right now. So, they're not all going to be Amazon shows. We were just what's really good right now? And we were thinking about, what was it? What's the new Game of Thrones is House of the Dragon.
House of Dragons.
Yeah. And we were just let's do this. This is more fun.
Yes. Yeah. So before we get started, I have a confession to make.
What's up, Steph?
Hey, Steph. I have never read The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. I've seen the movies. As a child, I saw Rankin and Bass.
I'm going to have to revoke that nerd card.
I named my kid Avienda. I get to keep my nerd card.
You're right. Never mind. What was I thinking?
And then I kept her after she turned out just like Avienda. So, but no, so I have never read it. I don't know a lot of the lore. My husband does. But so for me, Rings of Power.
There you go.
Oh, okay. See, for me, Rings of Power is there's a lot of wait. What's happening? Who is this? Wait, and especially because they kind of look like who I know from the movies, but of course they don't look exactly like. So I'm like, who is this? I know, Crystal. I know.
In Ebony's defense, it's good to have somebody in the discussion who doesn't know what the thing on the television screen means because they've read the books 85 times.
It's a great perspective to have because we get the perspective of someone who hasn't seen it. So it's do you understand fully what's going on without that context? What are your feelings on this? So that
right. Yeah. But also, I want you all to keep in mind that to be a little black girl in the 1980s and 1990s, it wasn't like people were ushering me to the fantasy and sci-fi section. It's nobody in my house was like, you should read this because nobody in the books really looked like us. It really wasn't what we were.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was. It's not like it is in my house.
And for any fans that have followed my journey into the land of felt over on the Leafcast, we this past Sunday we actually had Gerald Coleman as a guest who talked pretty in-depthly about representation and stuff like that in fantasy and science fiction, and I think you might echo his same feelings on that. It's gotten better, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah. Like it has gotten a lot better because we're not regulated to specific roles. You know what I mean? Like it's not like if it's a person of color, they're either a savage or you know what I mean?
Or they're there just to further the plot of the white character.
Right. Like we actually get to say things and do things. Yeah. Yes.
And Rings of Power does have a great, a great main black character as wow, what's his name? The elf.
Aranor.
There it is. Sorry.
Yes. So
there's two my brain is still on Wheel of Time names, so it's like
I mean
switch it.
Yeah. But it is a lot better. And like I've even though I haven't been going to JordanCon for a whole bunch of years, just in the few years I've been going, there has been an increase of people of color there. So that makes me feel good because I was like, don't leave me here by myself with these people.
Before the chat attacks, I dropped a letter. It's Arandir. I got it, guys. I got it. Don't hurt me.
And that's both there's been more and more representation at JordanCon. I feel like better both in the attendees and in the guests.
Yes, there definitely has been. So it's good. It's a great thing because it's a great genre. Like I grew up in a very I grew up in the country, but it was very old school, like black town here, white town here, big road down the middle. But I was the only one on my side of the road that was like, I really like dragons. And my mother was like, what do you how do you even know what a dragon is? Like, why? Who told you that? So this is going to be, I think, a lot of fun for me because I'm like, I don't know this world as well as all the time. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's hard to not know anything about Lord of the Rings, even though it's just such a staple. Yeah.
Right. Like I know, like I understand the importance. And like I said, I've seen the movies. I've just never read the book. So I know there's little details because Brian complains about stuff they left out. So I know there's little things that I don't know. Little tidbits.
So also before we get into the actual episode, I have to mention about our Kathy and I's interview with
yes. How was that?
Oh my God, he's so amazing. I love him. Like every time, like as a person, like every time I've seen him speak on stuff, like when you could hear the passion in his voice and stuff, I'm like, I want to hang out with him. Like he seems like a chill dude. And when we were hanging out with him, like he joined the call like 5 minutes or so before we actually started. So we got to say hello, and because we've spoken before, like, we've had interaction with Amazon and Rafe and some of the other people before, but never just like sat down and had a face-to-face, like, hi, I'm Tom, and I'm Kathy. So it was nice to do that. And, he was super nice and fun, and he knew Dragon Man already. Like, they're aware of us there. And from some of his questions that he answered there, the writer's room and the cast and crew are very on the vein, like on the pulse of the community. Like they share memes with each other that we make, and they lament or sometimes over the theories that we have, both from how wacky they are. But he also said, wow, they like, sometimes these theories are so true, and like, they figured them out, like they figured this out off this like little piece of information. So that was fun to hear.
Yeah, I don't know if he really, really understood how deep the obsession ran with so many of us. Like, you know what I mean? Like it is staggering sometimes.
Yeah. He was that was one of the other things he said was, that the Wheel of Time fandom is like one of the best fandoms that he's ever interacted with. And it's like all over the internet, it's commonly referred to as like one of the best fandoms. Someone in chat pointed out that Brandon Sanderson once said that the Wheel of Time fandom is the most unreasonably attractive fandom that he's ever seen.
Well, I do what I can. Like I
Ebony,
always try to be cute when I'm
Ebony definitely rages that average way up.
Yeah,
Darren and I might bring it down a little bit, but
it evens out. It evens out. It's fine.
I just throw us both in that category. You're cute too, Darren. Don't worry.
But I'm funny.
See, it's true.
Yeah, and that
smart.
counts more. That counts more.
Smart
being
and
funny. Yeah.
That was from The West Wing. You have to be smart and funny. Toby, that was one of his things that he said.
There are moments where being friends with Tom has its penalties. So.
But yeah, no, he was fantastic. The two big pieces of information were he didn't waffle us when we asked about release dates for season 2. He didn't give us a date because I don't even think they fully know yet. He did say they're still doing post and VFX stuff. So he said, while it's probably 2023, like the rumors are saying, it's most likely going to be nearer the end. So I'm thinking probably 3rd or 4th quarter.
I mean, November 16th is a great date.
Yeah. I mean, like the first season was November. I can see them doing November again.
I told Matt Hatch that because it's going to be for my birthday.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be in November. So.
Yeah. So you guys don't have to be worrying about that. It's going to be sometime in November. And then the other question we asked was, since they recently announced that he's also going to be show running the God of War live adaptation that Amazon recently picked up with Sony. Obviously it's too early in the process to have any kind of like release information or actor information because they literally just announced it.
Right.
What could he tell us about it? And, I think he gave us even if he just said, I've been involved with this a while because I love the video games and I've played all the video games. I feel like that's fun to know, just that he actually has played the video games. But he said that they've been working on it for a while. And then like one of the number one questions that everyone had was, is this going to affect your job on the Wheel of Time? And he said, absolutely not. It's going to, he said he worked on several projects while he's been doing Wheel and none of them have affected it. And this won't either. So that put my fears to rest. Cause I was hoping it wasn't going to be like, and I'm leaving the show to do this.
No, I don't think he would. I think he's too much of a fan.
He is. And that was the other thing was how much of a fan of Wheel of Time he is. That was great.
Yeah. So if people miss the live interview, they can still go back to our channel, right? They can go back to our YouTube channel and watch it.
It is on the YouTube's it is on our YouTube channel right now. I think it's on Instagram, except oh man, that was the other thing. Instagram, my thing that I used to stream to Instagram crashed right in the beginning of the thing.
Oh no.
Oh my God. I was pretending like everything was fine, but you could actually I went back and rewatched it. You could see the vein on my forehead popping out a little bit. Cause I'm like trying not to be staring at my screens to fix it. So I'm trying to interact with him and fix it. I got it up pretty quick. It was 3 minutes.
Oh,
yeah,
that's fine.
So the last thing I'll do before I keep going, and we're almost 7 minutes late than we wanted to start, is next week we will be doing episode 2, and I got to give a plug to my girl. Redfield is her stage name. Her name is Catherine. She's lovely. She is a cosplayer. This is a picture from a recent TikTok of hers where she was showing off her scarves that she makes. But she is a professional cosplayer. And does amazing cosplays. I will be sharing. We'll probably share some images on our social media, and I'll have a ton more when we do the episode next week, so that we can embarrass her and show her amazing work.
All right.
All right.
You guys ready?
Yes. Oh, and as always, I have my little dealie over here so that you can follow along. I'll give everyone a countdown and press play on that when we press play on the show.
And fingers crossed that it's
correct. Yes, it works. Correct. It's the same one that I'm using that I use for the real-time one. So it's a 60-minute timer and it works good. I didn't delete it and make a new one.
Okay, perfect.
We won't be skipping any recaps, but obviously there won't be one for episode 1. So without any further ado, I will get this going. Let me pull up both buttons next to each other so that I can click them at the same time. Okay, here we go. Right. So for everyone at home that's getting ready to watch, 3, 2, 1, go. Yay. All right. And right. Darren, since you haven't done this before, you might want to just turn down the volume on the show a wee bit so you could hear us still.
What if I don't want to?
That's
so
fair.
I mean, I always suggest putting the captions on anyway because...
Oh, yeah, good point. I forgot to do that.
Because sometimes you get little secret tidbits you didn't realize were going on in the background.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes they name characters in the captions
or
that
places.
Aren't named yet in the show, or places. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things I like particularly about the show is the music. The score for the show is absolutely fantastic.
Well, I think music is so important, though, especially to a fantasy series, because they've got to translate that feeling you get when you're reading the book, right?
Yeah.
They've got to transport you to that place.
Mm-hmm. I think they do a pretty good job with this, especially with the elf stuff, because it's all like whimsy and I wasn't prepared for baby Galadriel. I was like, this is interesting. The I've read so I'll to tag onto your thing that you said. I have read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but it's been a long time since I've read The Lord of the Rings. I read The Hobbit again recently. Actually, I listened to it on audiobook because I love the songs in The Hobbit, and this one audiobook reader that I like, I forgot his name, sings all the songs. And he's really good.
It's probably Richard Inglis.
Yes, it is. Oh, look at that! Bullies are in every species of Middle Earth.
Elf bullies.
Yeah. Of course, there's elf bullies. You cannot be looking that fabulous and not have a bully in there somewhere.
That's fair.
I really got a kick out of the elves having better origami than real origami.
Magic, Darin.
Of course, they have to have magical origami.
Yes.
But it's just it's not magic. It's that when it gets wet, it expands in a certain way.
Okay.
Like I'm totally down for somebody figuring out how to really do that.
It's probably possible.
I mean, I'm sure it is, but I'm going to still go with magic.
Yeah.
Because
elven magic.
Yeah. Well, as the wife of a scientist, it really annoys him when I explain stuff as magic. He's like, "No, there's science," and I'm like, "No."
Lee, I'm not. Darin, have you read The Silmarillion recently or at all?
Yes, a few dozen times.
Okay.
Wow.
So Darin will be our expert for this episode.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Do they go into any of the social structures of the Silmarillion in the Silmarillion, like social elven structures? Or
oh yes,
yeah, because there's got to be, right? Every society has its levels.
The Silmarillion is Tolkien's, literally it's his writer's Bible.
Yeah.
It is the Old Testament if Lord of the Rings is the New Testament, sort of, kind of.
Okay.
He goes back to the very, very beginning. There was void and there was nothing, and then God made the universe. The really cool thing that Tolkien did in the Silmarillion that made it a little bit different was that the creation of the universe was through music.
Yes.
And so when
song, yes.
Right.
They
so
sung
when
everything
Morgoth
into creation.
Yep. So Morgoth, the enemy, Lucifer, when he did his thing where he wanted to also be in charge of stuff, he changed the music. That's the corruption of Eoz's vision. Yeah. So he does a really fabulous job of writing his own version of Genesis, essentially.
Yeah. And it's very similar in the fact that Morgoth was a Valar and fell, like technically not really like fell like Lucifer did, but he was originally one of gods or the gods.
Mm-hmm. He was a good guy that went
and
bad.
then became
his ego got the best of him. Is this what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Okay. He was Lucifer essentially in this version of the story. Okay. There's a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is what they're talking about right now.
Oh, well, look at
there's
that.
more
timing. Look at that. It's almost like we planned it, but no.
No, we didn't. We're not that good yet.
I was trying.
No, you're doing great, Darin. It's me and Tom.
Yeah.
Sure, as long as we're clear about that.
Yeah.
No, the two trees are part of the Silmarillion.
Mm-hmm.
The Cimmerils.
Now, my understanding, for those of you who've read all these books, this might be a bit of a spoiler, but my understanding is they're not allowed to use the Silmarillion for this series.
So I did know that because I have a coworker that is real obsessed. So I had to go tell him I was doing this, and he's like, "Yeah, no, they can't. the family won't let them have the source material.
Yes. Yeah. So for those of you who've read all of these books and you're sitting there going, wait a minute, they skipped something. Oh yeah, they skipped something.
They were not able to get the rights, the full rights for the Silmarillion. They were only allowed to adapt what's already been adapted, if I'm correct.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Someone in chat could double check for us, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
They're allowed to use the appendices.
The appendices. And anything that's already been adapted.
Right.
So they can't get the real meat of it, though. Like the real.
But to be honest, I think that's good.
It probably is.
I have mixed feelings about it because, like, if somebody comes to you, if a Lord of the Rings fan comes to you and says, "Oh gosh, you've got to read the Silmarillion," you really need to read the fine print, because the Silmarillion's a tough read. It is his version of the Old Testament. It's not a novel.
Did he ever mean to have that published, or was
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, right?
Yeah,
I remember reading that, but I didn't want to say if you knew. That was, like you said, that was kind of like his reference material,
right?
For his, that would be like if he published Robert Jordan's notes.
Yeah,
it would. And and if you're interested in mythology or any of that, or theology or any of that stuff, it's a fabulous version. He's just such a smart guy, does such a good job.
Yeah.
But also the thing that really gets me is I don't want them to do a movie or a TV show of the Silmarillion, because it just wouldn't kick.
Right. Well, they're not going to be able to recreate what he created, right? Because it's not going to be him doing it.
Yeah. But for them to not be allowed to use things in the Silmarillion in order to help build the story.
Yeah. I mean, the estate is, I don't know who owns the rights to it. I don't even know if it's the Tolkien estate.
Simon the grandson.
Okay.
I believe it's Simon Tolkien, the grandson.
That was the information I got, but we know I'm not an expert. But that is what I was told. Okay. But yeah, because so if you don't give them anything to work with, okay,
for the Silmarillion,
right,
okay,
right. Yeah. But so if you don't give them anything to work with, it's almost like the grandson can't be upset about how this turns out, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't say this isn't what my grandfather wanted.
He got paid. Tolkien estate got paid.
Right, but I mean, if
you don't give them more of the information to use, then
at some point the people writing this are going to have to make assumptions, right? They're going to have to connect dots and maybe not do it the way that it really was supposed to be connected.
Yeah. But they do a really good job, actually, of building the world, even though they're, I don't know if hamstrung is the right word, even with their hands tied behind their back, they do a really good job of building the world so that you kind of understand, where they're going, what's going on. I don't think they could have gotten away with this without the movies, though.
No, definitely not. Definitely
not.
So was Galadriel, warrior princess, any kind of theme in the Silmarillion at all, or is this like a departure from her character, her person in the?
No, I've got a couple of pages of notes just on this one episode, and one of them is that they really, to me, they do a good job of building up Galadriel so they can knock her down, so they can build her back up again. And that is part of the story of the Silmarillion, although they don't go into any real detail.
Yeah, but that's fine. You fill it out a little bit.
Yeah. Galadriel was, in the Silmarillion, was one of the like 8 or 9 or 10 famous elves that really made a name for themselves by being a pain in the Valar's behind. And so there's some really great stuff in this episode and in the series that if you then go back and watch Fellowship of the Ring and watch Galadriel pass the test of the ring, the TV show actually makes that scene even better, in my opinion.
Okay.
I at the very least with the so just to remind everybody who's watching right now, this is full spoilers for the show. Like we're going to be referencing, for their episodes, like, oh look, they foreshadowed X in episode whatever. So just to give everyone a warning. But specifically the discussion that Halbrand or Sauron and her have in the last episode when they're standing next to the river is a great setup for that too, because Halbrand actually says a couple of the things that Galadriel says in that scene. Like he says, you would be more powerful than the dawn and like stuff like that, which is this. same thing that she says when she does the test. So
yeah.
So I will say, watching her go through that test, I was like, okay, yeah, I get that the ring tests everybody, right? But like Sam didn't have any issues. So why is it a big deal that this pretty lady elf resists?
Okay, so we don't have time for me to fully answer the Sam question.
That's fair.
But just let me try and sum up and go with Sam is the whole reason why the Lord of the Rings, why we win.
Yeah.
Sam is why we win.
Sam is the main character.
Sam.
Even the movies couldn't screw that part up.
Oh no! So when watching Lord of the Rings, like watching it with Avi, I'm like, so Sam is really like Sam should have just pushed Frodo at the end. Like when he was like, no, just everything.
Just kicked him right in.
Right, just everything. So no, I'm a big Sam fan.
Oh yeah.
And also he's a Goonie, so.
Yeah, exactly.
That helps. It helps.
Rudy.
The problem with the ring is that it is a way before there were Horcruxes. It's a Horcrux. It's a part of Sauron's soul.
Right.
That's why everybody is scrambling to get a hold of it, especially Sauron. That's why everybody is so afraid of it, because it doesn't just give you power; it gives you part of Sauron's soul.
Yeah.
And Sauron is all about corrupting. That's his whole job for almost every bit of everything.
So is it similar to the super soldier serum where they said if you're bad, it amplifies that, but if you're good, or is it like the good doesn't even matter? So okay.
Yeah. And actually it's funny that you bring up the super soldier serum, because in one of the Marvel movies, our anti-hero / amazing looking Sebastian Stan mentions that he read The Hobbit when it first came out.
It's in Winter Soldier and the Falcon.
Yep.
Because Anthony Mackie says something about wizards, and he's
so
like,
funny.
Yeah, and he's like, I read it.
You got wizards now?
Yeah. No, and he's like, I read it when it first came out.
If you want to establish that someone is 100 years old, having read The Hobbit when it first came out,
and so the other reason I wanted to bring that up, specifically to talk about something that you just said too, Darin, was the originally the ring wasn't important. Like he didn't have, when he had wrote The Hobbit originally, the ring wasn't the one ring to rule them all. It was just a ring that made you invisible. And when you go back to the original printing of The Hobbit, so the original Hobbit that I read this in the extras, by the way, on the Disney Plus stuff, under that stuff, like the original Hobbit, and then I read about the original Hobbit. He hadn't had that fully fleshed out yet, so he went back and they re-released The Hobbit a few years later. And that original one, all the ring did was it was just a ring of invisibility. And Gollum actually willingly gave it to Bilbo, and like it wasn't as like, he beat Gollum in the contest, and Gollum gave it over. Here you go, you won. Here's my ring. And then when they rewrote it, he rewrote that scene to be more, like, no, don't give me the ring.
I don't remember all of that, but I remember some of that.
Yeah, I read it in an article when I was prepping.
Yeah.
So the Hobbit.
I remember they said that was different. I wonder what was different about it.
Yeah,
that's what was different about it.
So the two of you cut me off when I ran out of time on this, but The Hobbit was written 17 years before The Lord of the Rings. He wrote it for his 17 small children. He's got a bunch of small children. I think it's 4 or 5 actually. And he wrote it for them. So he wanted to do something from the Anglo-Saxon mythology. So he basically turned Beowulf into a story where you have Bilbo Baggins as the point of view character in the story of Beowulf retold and turned around a little bit. So it was such a huge hit on both sides of the pond that everybody kept slamming him for a sequel. Yeah. So 17 years later, he did not publish the sequel. He published Lord of the Rings instead.
Yeah.
And yes, they did have to go back and tie some things together. One of the things that I'm like, Tolkien fans, you'll appreciate this. I have 2 versions of The Hobbit, but I don't think I have every version of The Hobbit. So
there's an interesting bit here when they're in I forgot, they Frost something or Frostswithy. I don't know how to pronounce their names. About there being like this was like one of Sauron's outposts, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty. Oh, there it is.
Oh, I love
and
that
the troll. A snow troll. It's a Yeti.
It is a Yeti.
It's their version of a Yeti.
And I have to say that Galadriel being a total badass is awesome.
Oh yeah. And I don't know how to pronounce her name exactly correct, so I'm terribly sorry if I butcher it, but it's like Morfydd Clark. Morfydd Clark. It's Morfydd. She's amazing as Galadriel. Absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Her voice is like spot on. Like it really sounds like a young Morfydd. Thank you, Noman Garden. Morfydd.
Excellent. 5 points for your house.
Irish. That's Irish, right? Yeah, or Scottish, or just or just like that area. Maybe Celtic.
He said soft th, guys.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what that means. So okay.
Not the but a it's a very soft difference. I mean, like technically, Avienda has a soft H in it.
Welsh.
Like you're supposed to pronounce that H softly, but we don't put people through that.
The Welsh are an interesting people. That when they speak in their own language, oh man, it's it's difficult.
Okay, so I do have a question for you guys. I understand that Galadriel was going through because she said he's still out there, right? They didn't double tap. She doesn't believe that he's gone.
Correct.
Is she the only, like her and this group of elves, the only group out there, or was it that all the elves had their own little groups that are like, no, he's still out there? Is she like the last hold off of that?
From a book perspective, you want to take that, Darin?
Yeah.
This is a fabrication for the TV show.
Okay. Well, see, that was easy.
Yeah. So, and it seems like this might be the last of the war. Like the fact that Galadriel, since she's like the leader of whatever she was like a general in the.
They called her commander.
Yeah. Technically, kind of like the war is still going. So, like, as long as she's out there, it's still happening. And then the way they talk about it in a minute when she goes back is like that. Now that she's done, the war is over, and we can be done.
Okay. All right, because see, I don't know what is a fabrication and what is actually.
Yeah. So I have a theory, Darin, for this, and we'll see what chat thinks too. I'll see what you think about this. I think those are the blue wizards.
Brian told me to ask you guys about the blue wizards.
Brian is a bigger Lord of the Rings fan than he is a Wheel of Time fan, right?
He is. He absolutely is. He's like, ask them about the blue wizards.
Wow, that you're gonna make me do homework because I thought the Istari all came together in the book.
The books, but
which book and which version of the story?
Exactly. Yeah. I like this being in my headcanon that.
Interesting.
That's the blue wizards. I mean,
yeah. What I think my favorite part of this scene is that moose are canon now.
Yep. I love this like proto Hobbit that these guys are too.
I do love the Harfoots. I was like, I was watching it with Brian. I'm like, that's where hobbits come from? Are those prehistoric hobbits? And he's like, don't use the word prehistoric. And I'm like, but are they?
Well, yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, they kind of remind me of like a mixture of Tuatha and Ogier.
Yeah.
That's what they make me think of, like especially this depiction of them.
Mm-hmm.
Very in tune with nature, very non like invasive with nature too. Like they live amongst it, like in it and with it, and are a part of it less than they like manipulate it to fit them. And that kind of still goes, that kind of life even extends into the Lord of the Rings with the Shire, because you know they still live in hobbit holes and very much so are a part of nature.
So Tom, I want to chime in real quick and say that the third time I watched the episode, I noticed that the book shows moose antlers and then the dogs, which, spoiler, come up in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wait, hold on, what? He's got a book that says that there's antlers and then there's dogs? Which I don't know what that means, but I just was like,
where did this book of prophecy come from?
Yeah, like don't know where that came from.
No.
Although he might have Tolkien's original notes.
Somebody has to.
Yes. Yeah, and for just to get ahead of the question, no, there's no hobbits in the Silmarillion. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
And this is Markella Cavanaugh and Megan Richards. They're Poppy and Nori. I love both of them. I love their relationship too together. They're pretty funny together.
Oh yeah. I would watch a TV show about the two of them and their families, even if it had nothing to do with Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
They're fabulous. Yeah. Yep.
And then the hobbits also, like the later hobbits, when they're actually in the Shire, and I mean, it's by design because Robert Jordan kind of purposefully designed the two rivers to be very much like the Shire, but like the similarities there are just like undeniable. You can see them everywhere, and I always got that. Like whenever I pictured the two rivers in my head, I inevitably had bits of the Shire in there. Especially the party, like the party for Bilbo is like the Beltane celebration in my head.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember the exact significance of all the dates that Tolkien picked for everything, but one of them I do know he picked was May 1st, which is what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's also like September 20th is also very important, which I think he picked the 20th very much on purpose. Somebody in the chat will help me remember what September 20th is supposed to be. It's like it's one of the equinoxes or something.
I was going to say, I feel like it's a solstice or equinox. Yeah, like is that when autumn starts?
That's the first day of autumn, I think.
It might be.
Yeah.
But then like he also, because of the timeline of what happens in the books, he also has forced to deal with some dates that are relative to those dates. Like I think it's October 6th is important, but I don't ever remember going, oh yeah, October 6th, that means something. I think it's just that I just think that it's literally like 17 days after September 20th or something like that.
Okay.
16 days after September 20th.
Yeah, Nomengarden, that kid did look a lot like Peter Jackson's kid.
Mm-hmm.
The other major change, but one of the other big changes is the compressed timeline in this in the show versus the books. But that's because, and Darin, you'll probably know this better than me, but it's like 2,000 years or something like that, right? Like from when the elves first even think about like from the end of the war with Morgoth to the beginning of the war with Sauron. It's a couple of thousand years, right? Or something like that.
Yeah. So each age of Middle Earth is about 3,000 years old, give or take.
Yeah. So it's near 3,000 years then.
Yeah. Probably close. Yeah, probably closer to 3,000. The first time we see Galadriel in a movie, she's about 9,000 years old.
Yeah. So obviously that is not the case here because the war with Morgoth, probably ended. I think they reference it. It's like a few. It's a while ago, but it's not thousands of years. It's hundreds of years, or maybe decades.
Yeah, I had to not even worry about that. Watching this. But
the thing is, though, is like all of the not immortal characters in the show would have to be replaced like every other episode if they were to do, if they were to follow that timeline. And even the original movies didn't follow the timeline. Like when Gandalf drops the ring off to Frodo, leaves to go to study what the ring is, and then comes back, it's like 70 years pass or something like that, or 30, or is it
17
years? 17?
17.
17.
Gandalf.
That's why I said 70, because 70 and 17 sound similar in my brain.
But also you're very close, because Bilbo had the ring for 50 something years before Frodo got his hands on it.
Yeah. So
and then Frodo had it for 17 years or something like that
before they even set out from the Shire. And they in the movie it's
instantaneous.
Weeks maybe.
Yeah.
Like maybe. But like the way they show it could be days.
Right.
Yeah. But if you're going to do a television series and a lot of your characters are immortal and everybody else dies really relatively quickly, then I'm okay with the conceit of we have to squeeze the timeline so that, everybody's not dead after one episode.
Right.
Yeah.
From old age.
To replace the human characters and the Hobbit characters every episode.
Yeah.
Midway through every episode, because we have to because the big story beats in that 3,000-year period in the Silmarillion are spread out over, the entirety of the 3,000 years. Like Celebrimbor coming up with the idea to use the rings, making each version of the rings. There's long periods of time in between those.
Yeah. Because everybody involved in that paragraph is immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say really quickly, I also love the casting of Elrond. He's not what I was imagining, but his hair is fabulous and he does a really good job.
That's fair. Elijah Wood is immortal. That man has not aged in a long time.
He must moisturize and mind his business.
It's a true story. It's a true story.
Yeah, I was going to say Galadriel. She moisturizes. Yes.
I spend a lot of my time preaching about how people need to moisturize.
Mind their business.
Well, and mind their business. But I'm like, y'all need to moisturize. I don't know why people don't, but please do.
Looking a little crusty.
Yeah, I mean, it benefits everybody. Yeah. It benefits you. It benefits the people who have to look at you. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about them hinting that Elrond and Galadriel have a little thing going on the side. I'm like, because it didn't really go anywhere the rest of the first season.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we are misinterpreting the way elves just talk to each. I mean, maybe it's more of a mutual respect, unrequited something or other. And
also, I feel like if you're immortal, your philosophies on interpersonal relationships will probably be a little bit more loose than someone who has a finite time. They might be a little bit more open in the nature of sexuality and stuff like that.
Yeah. And one thing that Tolkien really didn't cover in the books, probably because, he was from the 19th century, is he didn't really cover elf gestation periods or pregnancies or anything.
Yeah.
He like a lot of the elves have children, but how many children and how does that work? And
how long is it? When do they mature and when do they?
Right. Like
Julie. What up, Julie?
Hey, Julie. I would be
Nomengarden that they've known each other for centuries, so they have a very strong familiarity. Yeah.
Right. I think maybe that may be more of what it is. They just know each other really well. And you know what? They grew up together, right? So maybe it was a little crush here or there at some point, because who didn't have a crush on somebody they went to elementary school with?
Yeah. And a badass commander in the army,
right,
and this awesome, up and coming leader of their people.
Right.
But you came to join us, Julie, so you get a gold star for today. So thank you for choosing us.
Hello, Julie.
Wisely.
Yes.
Yeah, Galadriel and Elrond, by the time you get to the Fellowship of the Ring, they have been through it together a lot. They've been through a lot. They've seen some stuff.
So that's a whole nother aspect I didn't even think about. Like they do have that bond. Like, we didn't know. I mean, there's a good chance that at any point I know they're immortal, but they can be killed.
Yeah. So just like they could be killed by pretty much anything a human can be killed by.
Right. So the fact that they have stuck it through the whole way, right?
Yeah.
Like
they do talk about they reference in this show that they do heal from injuries faster and they don't really get sick. So they don't have doctors in the sense of or healers in the sense of humans do. But they if they get stabbed in the heart with a sword or if they get shot with an arrow, they can die.
I mean, Yeah, they do wear armor, so there has to be like they do.
There's a reason for that. Yeah.
Right. Right. It's not because I'm sure it's not comfortable. Right.
So,
like.
Oh, so go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Darin a question. So, what do you think about the lack of inclusion? And wow, his name is escaping me. You'll know it. Of her husband, his character. Yeah.
Well, so part of the problem with Celeborn is I don't remember where he comes into the story in the books, so they may be saving him for later. Yes, Noman Garden, you're correct. Yes. I was gonna, I'm sorry, Tom, but you did post it up there. You should pretty much assume that every single elf in the show is a cousin of every single elf in the show. Yeah. They're all cousins at this point. No, it is Celeborn. I don't remember where he comes in the Silmarillion. He really he really isn't that important to the story. The large arc of the ring. It's just...
But if they want to marry this to the movies eventually, they'll have to bring him in at some point.
Well, I would hope so. I would hope so. At one point, at one of the very first conjurations that we did, we were doing a Lord of the Rings panel, and I just went all the way crazy, and I said, basically Celeborn is Galadriel's purse. In a Tolkien-y kind of a way, right? In a different way than he is. He's covering for her because she's in charge. Let's be clear. He's the Lord of Lothlorien, but she's the boss.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I have no problem with that. I mean,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was just about to say, because I saw his armor and like the sashes that were across with elven writing on them. I love the costuming in the show.
Yeah, the pretty much everyone in charge of anything elfy by the time you get to the Hobbits, the Lord of the Rings, they've all been through many wars, centuries and centuries of fighting. I mean, Elrond and Galadriel and Celeborn are all incredibly experienced, successful warriors just out of necessity. Mm-hmm. So it isn't that they sit up in their ivory tower, although they do have ivory towers. They don't just sit up there in their ivory tower and look down and go, oh, okay. I mean, Elrond survived the last battle with Sauron. He was there in person, as you saw in the movie. So, Elrond's tough on top of everything.
He's a badass.
Else. He is, and Galadriel is too. And
I love
Celeborn must be.
I love how they flesh that out a bit more in this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, I love them showing Galadriel kicking butt. That's great. I love how the elves have all the political machinations. The Gil-galad's big gift to her is to kick her out. You are such a fabulous warrior. Let me reward you with leaving.
Yeah.
Get out. Yeah.
This is a good scene too. Like, we don't really ever see any kind of traditional cultural things with the elves. Right. In the movie and the other movies. So to see like, oh, this is how they worship, this is how they remember their dead. It makes sense. Carved into trees. Yeah, obviously. Though I will say her decision in episode 2 to just jump off a boat in the middle of the ocean. It's like, I need to further the plot. Even though this doesn't make any sense.
Well, she's a young elf, though, right? In elf years, so...
I guess. I don't know.
I mean, it was just... She was very moved, is what it was. It's like,
yeah, okay.
This does not feel right. Like,
She jumped off the boat, and I turned to my wife, and I went, where is she going?
That is the same thing Brian said to me. I was like...
Where is she going?
Like, I don't...
Does she know something I don't know? Like,
I asked Brian how long elves could swim. I was like, I don't see any land. Like, I know they're magical. Like, how long can she keep this up?
And, drink water and eat food.
Right.
I mean, that is not what the appendices were written for. When Tolkien says the appendices, he doesn't mean the, elves can stay awake for 3.5 weeks, and
it's not the companion.
That's it, and that's, I feel like that's a large difference between as the older you get with fantasy writing. It gets more dissected from, not, I don't want to say reality, but realism or gritty detail like that. Like that wasn't something that they really focused on before.
No, not at all. I mean, and also when you're watching it, you're so caught up in it, right? But I mean, it's the same with watching superhero movies. Now, as an adult, I'm like, who is paying for all this damage? Like that person's car is wrecked. Yeah. Like,
they do play with that though. They do play with that sometimes though.
Right. It's like, but can you imagine calling up and going Hulk smashed? Like calling the little Geico lizard like he smashed. And
again.
Like, why don't you move? Why do you still live in that city?
I actually sat on a panel which was a dramatic interpretation of what the insurance claim meeting would be like after the Avengers beat up that German airport.
See?
I had to look up how much an Airbus costs.
Yeah. I'm just as a person with bills now. I am like,
who's paying for this?
Right. It's a whole nother outlook, because I can tell you right now, one of my adult children can call me now and tell me that the Avengers came to Columbus, Ohio, and now I need to buy them a new car. I'm like, I need to speak to somebody, because I don't have that kind of scratch. Like, what do you mean?
And I feel like that's just the difference in the fandom. Like the fans, like over the last 20 years, you could even see it. Forget about going back 100 years when this came out. But like even over the last 20 years, you can see that fans have expected a little bit more depth in their entertainment, and they don't like just like the answer, just because. And actually, you know what? To be perfectly honest, Tolkien does kind of do that. He uses his magic as a plot device, and less as a fully fleshed out magic system. It's like, we need something to happen, magic. It's not really like a fully defined magic system like we would get.
Right.
Yeah, if you're wondering where the trope "a wizard did it" came from, Gandalf. You're welcome. I mean, literally Gandalf is the "a wizard did it" trope starter.
Yeah. Lee, yes, I do like Incredibles because of that. Because like, okay, this is realistic. Like, this makes sense. This is what would happen.
Where's my super suit?
But like, no, it made good, like story-wise. I'm like, okay, this is feasible, right? If we did have superheroes, at some point they are going to save somebody who maybe didn't want to be saved.
And let the drow jokes begin right there.
Ismael Cruz Cordova is the guy that that's playing him, and he's also great.
And if they'd given him 2 swords, I would have been very upset.
Why?
Drizzt.
Oh yeah, forget it. Oh right,
which of course I'm not pronouncing correctly, but close to who I mean. No, I'm serious. I mean, it's like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, some people are going to make drow comments now, because that's not a drow, guys. It's a different thing.
Just an elf.
It is just an elf, yes.
Yeah. And this goes back to what Ebony was saying before, like people getting so upset that there's literally one elf with a different skin tone is like, come on. Like they're just beings. Like they can have varying skin tones. What's the problem? And an argument that I used to that I saw in the beginning of the Wheel of Time was like, well, if they were a different skin tone, they would have had a very different upbringing, so it could have had a different character. Like, you're putting our real world influences on characters that don't exist in a world that doesn't exist. So like they would like the innate systemic racism that exists in most cultures today doesn't exist in this world, so they don't have a problem with that shit. So they wouldn't have a different upbringing. It's just people looking for reasons to get mad about dumb shit.
Yeah. I love that he calls him knife ears.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like that, because that's the issue. That's what makes him different.
Yeah.
That he's an elf.
Yeah. And they all feel like they've been being punished because
because of something the ancestors did.
Yeah. And the racism that exists in Lord of the Rings between the different races is not because of race, it's because of politics.
Yeah.
the relationship between the elves and the dwarves that is not good for most of the 9,000 years. It's not good because they're different races. It's because they have very serious political disagreements, top to bottom. So the elves and the dwarves don't trust each other because they've not earned it. Neither group has earned it from the other. And the men, the people, get caught in between. And so all of these racial relationships are really not racial, they're political.
That's fair. Sorry, my wife just came in. There's a lost cat in our neighborhood, and they found it, and they're in my backyard. She's in the backyard right now, so there's people she's like, if don't get worried about people running around with flashlights in the backyard. They just found the cat. So no, absolutely, do all the running you need to do to catch the cat, to get her home safe.
Okay, that's a good interruption.
Yeah, they found the cat. That's good.
So that's good.
Not my cat. All my cats are safe. Mm-hmm. But someone else's cat got it.
So elves got a crush on human.
Yeah.
I also feel like it's so unrealistic that this is like, there's only been 2.
Oh, no, I don't believe that. There's only been
2. They say there's only been like one other relationship between elves and humans in the history of the whole world in thousands of years. But there's 3 altogether. But I'm saying right now they say this has only happened one other time, and it was with
Baron and Luthien.
Yeah. So it's like, come on, 3 in the whole history of the world. These people, no one got together. Just 3 people.
Okay, so yeah, Tolkien would not have counted or considered the illicit love affairs or the
of the unimportant characters to be a thing.
It's not. Yeah,
the flings. Yeah. We didn't count the flings, basically.
Or if an elven citizen and a human citizen got together, no one gave a shit. Is what you're kind of thing.
I mean, it does sound a little weird. Over 9,000 years, there are only 3 real hookups that they're willing to talk about publicly. There might have been more, but there were actually only 3. They were kind of important.
Well, I was going to say, they're probably the 3 that mattered. I'm assuming, because like I said, I don't know, but they had a heavy influence on the way things were happening in the world. So, okay.
Yeah. Elrond is a half elf. His brother
Elrond. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Spoilers.
It's fine.
Elrond and his brother Elros were both half elves, and they were presented with the choice. I don't know how they were presented with the choice, but
that is our spoiler.
Wow.
She's excited.
You guys went all Blair Witch on me, and I was not ready for it. Okay, so for those of you who've seen that before, it's interesting the first time you see it mid-sentence. No, that's great. That's great. The Elrond and Elros, brothers, both half elves, they were given the opportunity to choose to claim human heritage or elf heritage, elven.
Which
heritage.
Also doesn't make any, how does that work?
Doesn't make a lot of sense. Elrond chose to be an elf. Elros chose to be a human. Elros still lived for 300 or 400 years, but he eventually died of old age. Elrond did not. So the theology gets really complicated. I love talking about it, but it gets kind of dry kind of quickly. Yeah. So Elrond is a half elf. Elros is a half elf, and Aragorn, who you guys might remember from the movie.
Yeah. Luke. It's. I mean, there's not a lot of depth to this naming convention. I get it.
Yeah. Right. So there. But Aragorn technically is a half elf ranger, but he's somebody sat down and figured out how much of a half elf he is, and it's you need 8 decimal places or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he's technically Aragorn. Aragorn is not a man; he's a half elf.
He's 1/100th elven.
So going back to the actual movies, I know in the movie Elrond wasn't too happy about his daughter being with Aragorn. Is that because he is half? I know he didn't want her to die, right? Nobody. But does it have to do with his own heritage, or was it simply because he didn't want to lose his daughter?
That's a great question. Elrond, I don't remember when Elros, anyway, whatever. I don't remember when his brother picked being human, but it was way before Lord of the Rings. So Elrond has had to say goodbye to his brother who died of old age a long time ago. And so the idea of his daughter dying of old age, just for some human, regardless of the fact that he's the king of everything. Yeah, he's lived that before and he doesn't want to go through that again. He's not just randomly saying, you're not good enough for my daughter.
Yeah, but he also he also kind of references in the movies, at least. I don't remember, honestly, don't remember very much of the books. A lot of the stuff that sticks out is Tom Bombadil stuff, and I'm glad they cut that. Don't even.
Those are fighting words.
Yeah. So he also says, like, either you're going to choose to be a human and die, or you're going to live forever and watch him die, and then you'll be heartbroken forever. So I don't want either of those options for you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, knowing that he is actually half human and that he's already experienced, I mean, that makes it, because it could be looked at as that he just didn't like humans because of the stuff that happened with the ring. Like he's like, I don't want you caught up with them. But
and specifically Aragorn's family.
Right. But so there's more to it than that. Okay. See, I'm learning so much tonight.
I mean, Elrond is effectively Aragorn's stepfather. Okay. Like even without all of that, he raised him from the age of like 1 or 2. But also Elrond is very much caught up in the huge tragedy of all of this. The Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, all of this stuff is a very, very long story of how the elves lost. The elves don't win.
No.
Right?
I remember at the end they had to leave. They had to go.
They all eventually left, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Which is why there are no elves on Earth anymore, because they all took off.
Huh. Which might not have been a bad choice, but that's another live stream.
Yeah, different panel.
Yeah, different panel.
But yeah, it is the elves. The elves didn't win. They just kind of controlled the loss, and they left Middle Earth intact for people to have it and hobbits to have it. Although the hobbits are apparently hiding in my backyard currently. Now I have to say that the black goo coming out of the cow.
It's a little much.
It's interesting, but Sauron, again, as we said 20 minutes ago, is all about corruption.
Yeah.
So like if you needed to give people who aren't familiar with the story a way to understand that something is rotten in the state of Mordor, then that's actually not bad.
No, it's not. Like I remember watching it and going, "Oh, that is not good. I don't know a lot about cows, but I know that was not right." So
that is the wrong color.
That was the wrong color.
If you think the milk in Star Wars is gross.
Yeah.
I've partaken. I've been to Batu in Hollywood studios, and I have partaken of both green and blue milk, and it is delicious.
Well, yeah. But I'm pretty sure the Lord of the Rings experience won't have the black milk. At least
I don't think it should.
I hope not.
So do you think that's Sauron's corruption, or is it the stranger, I think they call him, right? Are we
going to get ahead of ourselves on the episodes? Like,
we're full spoilers. Full spoilers, yeah.
Okay. The corruption is Sauron's.
You think so? Okay.
Top to bottom. Absolutely, yeah. There's an episode where I forget exactly which episode it is, where they trick you into, like, Gandalf kills some butterflies and you're like, oh,
yes,
right? That's completely on purpose to not only refer to some stuff that happened in Lord of the Rings, but also to flip it so that you're kind of sitting there going, okay, he accidentally killed a bunch of innocent insects.
Yeah, maybe it's not Gandalf. Maybe it is Sauron.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Sauron is the corrupter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, especially so that's a good question. So, Ebony,
yes,
when you were watching this for the first time, and you know, like, what was your journey on who did you think? You know, obviously we know now that it is Gandalf.
Oh, I said it was Gandalf.
Did you think it was Gandalf from the first moment with no doubts at all?
I told Brian it was Gandalf. I was like, that's got to be Gandalf, because I know Brian has told me in the past, because he does like to talk about, because I had always thought Gandalf was an elf, and he was like, no, he's whatever he is, and I was like, okay, so he's not from around here then. So
no,
So he's not from there, and that's why he can talk to the animal, the birds and the moths and all that kind of stuff like he does in the movie. So when the guy landed, I was like, oh well, that's got to be Gandalf then.
So you have no predisposition on any of the other characters, so you're just like Gandalf.
Yeah, I was like, that's got to be it if he's not from around here. And he made the things that, I mean, he did kill them, but then he made them do things. Like it seemed like he was talking to them at some point. I'm like,
which is very reminiscent to the movies.
Right. I was like, that's very Gandalf-like based on what I've seen about Gandalf. So
okay.
Yeah.
I waffled this whole series. Like I was like Gandalf, Saruman, somebody else. Like I was like I waffled a lot.
No,
I initially was like, it's Gandalf. And then like there was other stuff that happened. I was like, it's Sauron. And then I was like, it's Saruman. And then I'm like, I don't know who it is.
Yes. They fully exploited the fact that I've read all the books a lot.
I think
the stranger. Yeah. Because they plopped him down like a meteor. And I went, well, wait, can't be Sauron. It's got to be Gandalf. That doesn't make any sense. And then he killed a bunch of stuff, and I went, "That's not Gandalf. That's got to be Sauron." And then later, I went, "Okay, they got me. They got me. Good job, guys. You totally got. I totally fell for it."
And see, me only knowing Gandalf from the little bit that Brian told me and seeing the movies, I'm like, I don't. And I will say, I am stubborn. Like it would take a lot. Once I've decided something, that's why I can't be on the jury, because once I've decided you're guilty, I'm like, that's it. I don't. Your face looks like you did it. So
yeah.
The other one of the things that people harped on a lot was like that all the elves aren't gorgeously, amazingly beautiful. Like Celebrimbor, for instance. I mean, like I'm sure he might be someone's cup of tea, but like he's not the
he's
generic,
not Legolas.
Yeah. He's not the generic chiseled chin, perfectly asymmetrical, golden ratio.
Yeah, they've made the elves more regular.
Yeah.
And also more diverse, excuse me. Yeah.
Which makes more sense.
It does.
Yeah.
So I will say though, like when watching the trilogy,
is that an arrowhead that's holding his shirt together? That was he had an arrowhead stuck through his tunic as like a pin.
It may have been. Maybe. I mean, I'm sure he might have picked it up.
And by the way, that is Lenny Henry.
Yes, it is.
He's so awesome.
I know. All I see him is in those frilly shirts with in the suit jacket.
Yeah.
He looked a lot like when he was young. He looked a lot like Little Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you get a chance to go back and watch Lenny Henry's stuff, his stand-up and his TV shows on BBC, it's all good. He got that job for a reason. Yeah, he's fabulous. I'm sorry, I just had to jump in there because you're talking about him.
I am learning so much. I am excited. Brian will be excited because now I can go learn all about his favorite fantasy series.
Yeah. This is to me what's so fabulous about Lord of the Rings is that you can approach it from so many different angles and directions.
There's an old picture of Lenny Henry.
Oh my God, look at him.
That's a young picture of him. Tell me that doesn't look like Little Richard though.
It does.
Yeah, I jump back, want to kiss myself. Yeah, it's just awesome. Awesome. He's a very funny, talented man. He's a good singer, everything. But thank you, Tom, I forgot what I was going to say. No, Lord of the Rings is approachable from so many different directions. It's amazing. It really is.
And it really did set the stage for almost the entirety of the fantasy genre for almost 100 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You cannot ignore Tolkien if you're going to do that.
Oh no.
Yeah. Although I will say their depiction of elf cruise ships is so lame. Their elf cruises are so boring.
There's no activities.
No wonder she jumped off that boat. It's so boring. It's like I used to fight trolls.
Also, like the idea here is all of these elves earned like through some sort of amazing feats or whatever that they did earn their right to go to the Undying Lands. What about these other elves that are here? Did they also?
No, they just work there.
But they're going there too.
That ship's got to come back. I'm assuming that ship comes back out.
Can it? I thought you once you go, you can't come back out.
No, that Galadriel actually went to Valinor and was one of the elves who decided to go back to Middle Earth on purpose, which is one of the reasons why the elves sundered into two big groups.
Okay.
At that point, there was a debate over whether they should go back to Middle Earth, and she was one of the ones who went, we're going back to Middle Earth. So, so the idea that Galadriel doesn't make it to Valinor here made me go, wait, which age is this?
Yeah.
How can there be hobbits and she hasn't gone to Valinor yet? What? So yeah, that's when my brain turned off the calendar. No.
See, I love this music.
Oh yeah.
But I will say, when we were watching this, I did say to Brian, I bet she's gonna jump, because she very much gives off that vibe, like, this is not.
Yeah, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah, like I can't do this.
I don't belong here. This isn't right.
Yeah. But even then, I was like, but where is she gonna go? Like,
yeah.
I also was like, this is fucking awesome though. Like, we hear about the Undying Land. This is not something we've ever seen on screen before, is in Lord of the Rings. So right here, right off the bat in episode 1, we're seeing something from Lord of the Rings that we've never seen depicted visually before. So that's pretty cool. The closest we got to the Undying Lands was the dock in near the Shire when they were getting on the boat.
Yeah. And I gotta tell you, the fact that they were talking about they were actually going to show Numenor, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I got really excited that they were going to show us Numenor.
Yeah.
Really, really was looking forward to that.
Oh,
so
cool.
Here comes one of the Istari.
So, Ebony, the Saruman and the other wizards, all the wizards, quote unquote, the blue wizard, the brown wizards, all the wizards are essentially like angels.
Yeah. So Brian did explain that to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do know that they're, like I said, they're not from around here.
Yeah, they're aliens.
Yes.
They are the Maiar. So
yes,
all the Balrogs, Sauron, Gandalf, and the other four wizards.
There was a baby ant. Did you see the baby ant?
I forgot about the baby ant.
Yeah, there's a baby ant. The big tree kind of hugged the little tree.
Yeah. Yep. Because the ants had children, and tree ant.
Entings, right? That's what they called them.
Entings,
when they would birth, like that's not what the baby ones were called, but when they would actually multiply, they were called entings.
Yep.
There hasn't been a great enting in a long time.
Yep. And Treebeard actually sings a song about that in the books, which again will never be in any of the movies, but it's a good song.
Yeah.
Something else they do that's really wonderful is they steal bits and pieces from stuff that we're already familiar with from Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
The name of this episode is the second chapter of the Fellowship of the Ring, or it's stolen from that. When Elrond tells Gil-galad how he is disconnected from Galadriel because she's on the boring elf cruise, that was something that Galadriel said about Gandalf right after he died in Moria in Fellowship. So it's like, so they're borrowing bits and pieces from all over the place, which I think is delightful.
Yeah. It's little nods to it's this a similar thing like they did with the Wheel of Time, little nods to the people who have been part of the fandom for a long time, whether it's been the books or the movies. There's little nods here and there to that, and that's appreciative.
And that was the part where I was yelling at the television, "Where is she going?
What are you doing? You crazy woman! You're in the ocean!"
Yeah.
I have I could never spell it, but pronouncing it's also hard. Thalassophobia. That's the fear of the deep water. I have that. Like, her being in the ocean like that with nothing around her makes me physically uncomfortable.
Oh, yike.
Yeah, it's not fun. And I worked on boats for the majority of my life, but I didn't work out in the deep ocean.
Might be correct. So let's not watch The Abyss together.
Oh, I love The Abyss though. They're on the bottom. They're on the bottom.
Oh, so it's okay that
there's nothing underneath them.
Yeah,
like they can see it. They see the bottom.
I was going to say
the bottom.
I think that's it. I think it's probably the idea of that you can't like rest or steady yourself. Like you're just out there and eventually you're going to get tired.
And you don't know what's underneath you.
Right.
That's a great image.
It is terrific. It's terrific. And actually, it's supposed to look like a big yellow eye.
It does, and it does. So the other little tidbit here that they threw off for us was the fact that the fire isn't hot. So like in the beginning of this episode, they Galadriel or one of the other elves actually remarks on how the torches aren't giving off any heat. And then Galadriel says it's because of the evil of this place. It steals the warmth from everything. So like, and then in the beginning of the next episode, when they go back to the crater, Nori is like, I was like, no. This is my brain. Remarks that the fire isn't hot. Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. So it's like, oh, maybe it is. Oh, what's that? Maybe it's not evil. Oh, you're killing me. And I think they did a pretty good job with that. Like, maybe not with Ebony because she can see through everything.
But no, it's not that. It's just she's stubborn. I'm like, it's got to be him. Like,
it's true. But like a lot of the non-readers who were watching Wheel of Time, for instance, did not really know right off the bat that Rand was the Dragon Reborn.
So my son did, though. Roman did right off the bat. So maybe it's genetic. Though that's for true. Years definitely. I said he was the Dragon Reborn because he's been obsessed with the moon and he has really weird luck. And I'm like, okay, well, just don't break it until I have retired.
Yeah, like, don't break. Yeah. Wait till
I'm settled.
Exactly.
So.
Oh wow, that was a great. So we don't have to do any question collecting because we don't have any showrunners helping us out with Lord of the Rings, unless anyone in chat wants to go harangue the Lord of the Rings showrunner and tell them, hey, look, Rafe Judkins did this stuff. Maybe you should do it.
But don't tell them we sent you.
Yeah, but don't don't be mean about it. Be good about it.
I am really excited because I learned so much, Darin. Like, thank you. I may start harassing you.
Yeah, I feel like
questions.
I was going to say maybe we have to have you on more often instead of just like as the one-time guest.
Yeah. No, he's so much information.
So if I was going to do my own "Prove Me Wrong" meme, it would be the Lord of the Rings movies suck. Prove me wrong. It really, yeah.
The box office numbers.
That doesn't mean it was a good. That doesn't mean they don't suck. It might have been a good movie, but it might not have been reflective of the story.
Yeah.
When you make $1 billion international, they just hand you a Best Picture Oscar. Apparently, I'm glad that it's that easy.
That's fair.
I mean, that's right. So James Cameron's going to get a Best Picture at some point here.
Probably. The to give a plug for Darin again, just to remind everyone who Darin is. Not only is he a monolith, if you will, of knowledge for the Lord of the Rings, but you have the table of contents, right? The YouTube channel.
Yep, the YouTube channel is Tables of Content.
Which is my dyslexia again.
Which is a pun. Right. I'm trying to make it harder for Tom to find me. He's
Tables of Content. And
Tables of Content.
I shared the links again, but I'll share it again in chat in a minute.
Yes, please use the link. For Tom's sake.
But also, if you're in the Atlanta area, in November, or if you just want to go down there for this convention, it's a Conjuration convention. If you Google Conjuration convention also, because I don't have that link prepared right now. It's a great convention. It's for those who have been to Jordan Con. It has very much the same feel as Jordan Con, except the skin that's over it. Like whereas Jordan Con kind of has like a Wheel of Time skin over a fantasy science fiction literature convention. This one is like a magic and mystery and wizards and Harry Potter and kind of skin over it. But it's still very much a science fiction fantasy convention. They have paneling on everything. Paneling on Supernatural, the TV show. Paneling on the Wheel of Time and the Dresden Files and all kinds of stuff. So.
Dresden and Lord of the Rings. A lot of Lord of the Rings.
Now, is that by design, Darin, that it has a lot of Lord of the Rings?
He is the professor of programming.
I saw that. So just curious.
I am the second person from the top of the food chain for panel programming. So we have a lot of Lord of the Rings people who come to Conjuration. We've got a couple of Tolkien scholars. I do what I can But we have a lot of fun talking about Lord of the Rings at Conjuration. It's conjurationcon.com on the website. But
Thank you for remembering that.
Yep, well, no problem. That one's hard. That one's easy to find because the people who made it didn't try and do a silly pun as the title of the thing. But also, I do Dragon Con in September, which some of you may have heard of.
And you were on the main programming track, right? You worked on the main programming track.
I did a short stint moderating main programming panels for Dragon Con, but mostly what I'm doing now is the American Sci-Fi Classics track. Hey, Gary and Joe. But also I worked with Liz and the gang at the alternate history, historical fiction track and the science fiction literature track, which is a lot of fun. Hello, Sue. And so the other convention that's right in between those two is in October is Monsterama, which is a classic horror
Ooh.
and monster convention. So I'm all over the map.
So
but you're a nerd of many flavors.
I absolutely love classic horror films, which is hilarious because I'm scared of everything. But if the special effects are really good and I can't figure out how they did it, then that really happened and I can't watch it. So I can watch. That's my logic.
No, well, then really happens and I can't watch it.
Then you won't have any problem with the movies that we usually cover because they're 70, 80, 90 years old.
I love those movies. Like that is my favorite part of Halloween. Yeah, on Turner Classic Movies when they show all the old ones like that. Yeah, no, I love those movies.
So at Monsterama, we absolutely go crazy whenever there's an important anniversary for a Dracula movie or a Frankenstein movie or one of the novels. The Dacre Stoker has come to Monsterama a few times. We've got
awesome.
him. I don't know when he's going to be back, but like we've had some really great, amazing people from Hollywood that worked on horror movies or worked on monster movies, and Monsterama is just a lot of fun because of all that.
So I'm going to have to increase my con visiting now that Brian's retiring. Maybe we'll have time.
Come to Atlanta. September, October, and November are a little busy for me, but it's for a good reason. So.
All right.
Well, thank you for coming and hanging out with us.
Yes, thank you.
Everyone else, make sure to go and make sure to check us out next week when we have the amazing Catherine Redfield here with us. She will be discussing episode 2 with us, and I'm sure she'll have a lot to say about the costuming in the episode.
Yeah, I cannot wait to hear her opinions on the costuming because everything. She judged Jordan Con costume contest last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, she was the special judge.
She was they leaned on her for the technical aspects of the costume too, because she knows all that stuff.
Yeah, she definitely does.
Ebony should be having a new video coming out soon, probably on the
maybe.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Avi is on winter break, which means she is actually available to film the video.
Yay! Okay, so we can tell the people. Can we tell the people? Okay. Yes. So, which was the company that sent you the book?
Don't ask me these questions.
Okay, all right. I forgot. This is a very early plug for an episode that hasn't been filmed yet. But there is a company that is making a Wheel of Time coloring book, and they sent Ebony a early copy of it. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna our Ebony and special superstar guest.
Yes.
Her daughter Avienda is going to. They're going to film an episode where they look at that new one, and
it's images. Yeah, it's images from the show. So the coloring book is images from the show. It is not. It is. I don't want to say unauthorized, but it's not like sponsored by anybody.
Yeah, it's not Bandersnatch, which is Robert Jordan Estate. Right. It's not Amazon. It's a different company.
Avi has already picked the picture that she wants to color.
So I have a question, Ebony.
Yes.
Does the book come with 7 crayons?
No.
That's it. You only get 7 colors. That's it.
It did not, but I'm only going to give her 7 to color with and see what she can do.
So keep an eye out on our YouTubes for that, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please, please, please. It helps us out, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye, guys.
Peace out.